This is very anti-black. We have gone through everybody, down to the janitors, and they have still not gotten to the after credits on the black. Thank you, God. Thank you, God.
It's literally, it's literally, it's lit Z. Peace, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Literally Z. I'm your host, Z. Literally. So before I get into Captain America, which is kind of alluded to by the title and the other promotional posts, if you will, that I put out about this episode, I want to first ground us on a discussion of intersectionality with gendered racial identities. So I feel like all of us move through this world, move through life, and absorb media like films under certain lenses. And so I have a lens based on the stuff I've researched and studied that definitely affected how I took in the themes from Captain America, how I thought about it, how I also then thought about the larger impact, like just everything going on in 2025, this whew, dumpster fire. I was trying to think of non-profane words. Dumpster fire of a year. And it's just March. What's with that? Anyway, so intersectionality rejects the white supremacist tendency to essentialize people that are on the margins of identity to a monolithic, homogenous experience. So margins on the side, monolithic one, homogenous also one being the same, essentialize, boil us all down to just this one thing, right? And so before I even get into that white supremacy, by white supremacy, I feel like it's now like a buzzword. People are like, oh my God, you're calling me racist, da 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 da. Or like, hail Hitler, da da da. White supremacy characteristics, like it's a whole culture around it. So things like binary either or. So when I write the word black women, I don't include a space. I have black women as one word to really clearly reflect the union of black and woman as a unique thing. It's its own identity. I'm not black over here, woman over here. Being a black woman is a unique experience. And so I have a unique experience as a black woman. And so I put that all together. This comes from the work of Cheryl Harris, Kimberly Crenshaw, and plenty of others that also deal with intersectionality. There's a dissertation by Fenton in 2017. Garcia and Ortiz have a paper from 2013. Rizé Rashti and Martino have a paper from 2010, but a lot of people have done work with intersectionality. So that's just like one realm of it, right? And so and that's either or binary, like rejecting that through intersectionality with white supremacy. White supremacy also includes things like perfectionism, which we are all just, seeped in from kids' competition. There can only be one. Individualism, that's that whole bootstrap mentality. I don't need nobody but me, you know? So white supremacy has just so many different aspects to it, so many different characteristics to it. And so with taking an intersectional lens, I'm rejecting that. So I mentioned the idea of either or. There's also the fact that being the only one, we're the only one in a very isolating feel, right? Versus when they say only one, they mean beat out everybody else. So it's just so many ways where our existence does not correlate or does not layer on very well with white supremacy culture. Okay? So let's get that out the way. For blackness overall, Bell Hooks has a book called Black Looks, and she talks about gender roles not being very clean or clear cut for black people because of how we've been historically pushed out of white ideals and of masculinity, femininity, things like that. And so just following that theme, walk with me, walk with me. I know you're like, where's Captain America? Walk with me, walk with me. So following that theme from her as well, we can consider the ways that from the womb, because we know that a lot of our stress and trauma is inherited. So from the womb to the tomb, all right. We have biased assumptions and beliefs that psychologically, emotionally, and physically harm us as Black people. Plenty of people have written on it. There's a 2023 article from Fanny and Harnett There's a 2024 article from Gaskins, a 2023 article from Jones, a 2017 article from Lewis and a whole lot of other folks, a 2020 article from Milner, a 2019 article from Moody and Lewis, a 2010 article from Wright, a 2013 and 2015 article from Wright and Smith. They'll all deal with the ways that we are psychologically, emotionally, and physically harmed by the bias assumptions that folks have about us. So when we think about these intersecting biases of Black womanhood and Black manhood, just to keep it in that's a very strict strain binary, but just it's once you get farther out, it's so many nuances, and I'm trying to keep it brief. But these intersecting biases tangle up in our personal lives, as I mentioned, with the harm that it does to our bodies, right? But also our professional lives. And we get trapped in these very strict contradicting categories. So on one hand, we have the mammy stereotype that depicts Black women as pleasant and docile, a maternal figure who is prioritizing the needs of everybody else above her own. And she's also maintaining that servant-served power dynamic with white women. We can extend that to white men as well. I feel like that's very common as far as media movie tropes. Is we have, of course, like the Magical Negro, which became a movie in and of itself. What was that, last year? Which we could talk about that as well. But past the movie that literally is called Magical Negro, we have Magical Negroes in so many films, and especially for a woman who's is taking on the Magical Negro trope, if you will. That's typically again a maternal figure, and they are serving the served, which is white people. Okay. But on the other hand, you have the angry Black woman and the strong Black woman, and we're then hostile, we're assertive, we're aggressive, we're independent, we're unwilling to work with other people. So Renee Edo Lodge has a chapter called "What is White Privilege?" and in there notes how Black women's tone can be so policed that it then overshadows the injustice that our words are actually confronting. So instead of talking about the reason why I'm getting enraged, the reason why I'm upset, the reason why I'm hurt, the reason why I'm annoyed, we're concerned about my tone. And I know for me, when I've had heated discourse with non-Black people, typically my tone stays pretty even. And they start rah, 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 rah. They start da, 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 getting real loud. So when that happens, I know for me, there, time where people don't think that I can collaborate well or work in teams. And there will go that team word, which is coded language. Like, I'll be a team player. That's trying to get rid of our independence, which honestly is usually like a self-sustaining act. Like, we can't count on y'all. I can't rely on y'all. When I do a group project with you, I'm doing all the work. So I might as well be independent. So there's that aspect for Black women. But this movie doesn't there's one Black woman that has like a role, and she's a Secret Service agent to the president. So I don't want to categorize her too much because she didn't have much time on the screen. And I had initial thoughts that I may share at a later date, but I feel like I need more. I might need to do a rewatch before I talk on her. So I didn't want to leave us out because I have deep love for Black women, but I'm not going to analyze that with the film because I just feel like I need more time with it. So let's get on to these Black men. All right. So Black men also have an intersectional identity, and it exists between masculine lack and masculine excess. And so if you want to learn more about that, Bowleg, I know the name is a little trippy, but Bowleg and colleagues have a 2016 paper about it. Luby, way back in 1997, wrote about it as well. But with masculine lack, Black men are stereotyped to be like childish, infantile, silly, happy-go-lucky, harmless to white male dominance. So, not disrupting the status quo. Okay. And that is really designed to keep them subordinate, to keep them subservient to white male dominance. And that is for fear of what? Masculine excess. So they want you to have masculine lack so that they can then control you and keep you from having the masculine excess, which paints Black men as dangerous, hypermasculine, things like that. So a lot of Black men then will hide behind what they call the cool pose. A lot of people have written on this as well, as early as 1993 from Majors and Bilson. And this is the idea of suppressing emotions and masking vulnerability to just seem unfazed, like nothing is bothering you. And similar to the superhuman, you see, we getting there. We getting there. Similar to the superhuman expectations of the strong Black woman stereotype, right? The cool pose can also be damaging to Black men and Black boys' health because it promotes the stigma around help seeking, leaving them to just endure emotional suffering without support or reference or resources. Now, I'm gonna pause here. And before getting to the movie exactly, so Anthony Mackie got in the spotlight recently because he had a lot of words he shared on masculinity and how he's raising his boys. Now, I'm not going to get into his parenting style too much, although it was pressed that I talk about boy moms. And I have some thoughts on boy moms. I'm not a boy mom. To the boy moms, please. Chill, chill, chill. Okay. But people need to find an in between because referring to Black girls as women, fast, things like that adultify them and hypersexualize them, no bueno, right? On the flip side, doing the same thing for boys, little man, having like telling a 7-year-old that they're now the man of the house. Like and this is me throwing in my opinion, unless like more than literature. I understand the sentiment, but it's just still a lot of pressure to put on a child. And it still adultifies them beyond the position of a child, which is a person, a being that is cared for by an adult that can depend on an adult. So, and maybe that's like the teacher in me, the way I also tried to move my students, and the ways I tried to avoid adultifying my students and push against adults that were in the building adultifying my students. You know, they'll be really scared of these kids, like scared of them. Because they're making them to be more than what they are. They're making these little boys to be hyper masculine and super aggressive, and they're dangerous. And I'm fearing for my life. And same thing for the girls as well. And I think that's also why, like, when little girls are sexually assaulted, sorry, trigger warning, sexually assaulted by adult men, we have a different sensitivity than when older women are doing the same to Black boys. Like, it's like, oh, look at you, you're scoring an older one. Oh, you got a cougar. Like, that's still gross. He's not a man, he's a boy. He's still a child. Like that, I feel like there's the little man idea, the ways that like a Black girl, she better not look at a boy and a boy better not look at her. But your son, you're gonna be like, ooh, what you think about that woman? And it's a woman. And you asking a little boy to look at a woman's behind and her chest. Slow down. And I know that's not what he said in his remarks exactly, but I think that's just that's my thoughts overall on the like boys as men aspect. And that's also why I foregrounded with the fact that like Black masculinity, Black manhood is a very specific experience that should not be boiled down and reduced to just a holistic masculine experience that includes people like white people, because we're just not on the same plane as them. Not that we're beneath them, but we're just not. Our experience is not theirs. Their experience is not ours. Okay. And a prime reason for that is because they can hide behind white victimhood and white ignorance. So, ignorance, that's Charles Mills, to read more about that. Victimhood, that's on the side of Rennie Edo Lodges. But overall, it's the ways that they're protected by structural racism, and it shields whiteness from very, very, very much well needed, deserved, rigorous criticism. And they get to pretend to just be innocent. Oh, I didn't know. That's racist. I shouldn't say that. Oh, they can hide behind that. So, like their whole existence, their walk, their privilege in this world is just whole different plane. So, like American masculinity, like American man, I feel like America is so easily synonymized with whiteness that's also where I was like, clarify, please, clarify, please. Okay. And you might be like now, like, okay, girl, that's not the movie though. That's Anthony Mackie as an actor. Where is the movie? Black representation in media and film is super heavily tied to our gendered racial stereotypes. Okay, so this has already been taken up with the superhero Blade. This is with folks like Michelle Wallace and Jonathan Gales, who looked at Blade. They did a quick comparison of like Black Panther and Black Lightning. But this is pre the Black Panther that we know with like the more recent one, R.I.P. to Chadwick. But in being a Black superhero, you carry the weight of race as a defining element or factor to your character. That is not the case for white superheroes because they're seen as the norm, the status quo, their existence, their victories, even their shortcomings, even when they fail, it's all supported by whiteness. Because again, they always the victims. So it's always supported by whiteness. And with the gendered racial stereotypes that I shared earlier, Black male superheroes are easily perceived as threats to white patriarchy. So they need to be, kind of sunned a bit, like you need to sun them a bit, bring them down a peg. And I feel like that was kind of seen where, let me not get too head to the plot because I want to separate this all from the plot of the movie. So if you just wanted to learn a little bit and you don't want to be spoiled from the movie, you can do that. So I'm holding it. I'm saving it. We're going to circle back. But it relates to the plot. I'm just trying to be careful with timing so I can be like, at this point, there are spoilers. So, okay. But anyway, so they have to be kind of like sunned a bit, right? Because the hyper masculinity that's just kind of innate to superhumanness is highly amplified for Black men. And so then their bodies are not just hyper masculine in a superhero way that's like great and accepted when it's a white superhero, but it's a site of danger and violence and threat to whiteness, right? And so again, more on the Black macho and the myth of like the superhuman, I'll say in quotation marks, although they did super women, but I just didn't hit on that in this conversation. Redux, you can again read Michelle Wallace as well as Jonathan Gales. So, as I started thinking about our new Captain America, Sam Wilson, I think it's interesting that he's technically not superhuman. And I had to do a decent bit of digging to confirm this. But Sam Wilson, aka aka new Captain America, aka Black Captain America, he did not take the serum, therefore he is not superhuman. And this was confirmed by an article by Blum as well as Isaac. The Blum article was from 2025. The Isaac is with a K, so I don't know why I'm saying it like that, but the Isaac article is from 2022. So they said he's not superhuman. He didn't take the serum. He's not superhuman. Okay. Now you might think, okay, well that goes contrary to the points about Blade, like from Gales and them, because he's not superhuman. But I still think it is so spot on for how they treat everyday Black people. They assume superhuman strength and capabilities on us. You go to the doctor, you in pain. You can't be in pain. Like we can't be in pain because our skin is too thick for that. We must just be looking to score some drugs, right? Got to be. Can't be in pain. You said your pain is a 7? 4. White woman comes in. My pain is at a 10. Their 10 is like our 4. Again, because the scale switched, right? I came in, I said hi. They're gonna be like, she's probably more of a 4. She just wants drugs. So it just kind of folds right into that for me. And then when you put on top of it the fact that he's taking on the job of a white Superman. And again, I know he's not Superman, I know it's Captain America, but I'm saying a Superman, okay? A white Superman. And succeeding still kind of supports the stereotypes that we are these magical beings that can take on massive amounts of pain and stress, caring for other people above our own needs, safety, wants, all that good stuff. All right. And so now that we have kind of done all my foreground thoughts, we get into the spoilers. Okay. So if you did not want spoilers, it's time to, I'm not even gonna say exit, save it for later. Okay. Save it for later. So getting through the plot a little bit, we first have the fact that it breaks tradition and the fact that they don't have the typical signature opening for the movie. Okay, whoop-de-whoop. Like I didn't really notice because I've seen Marvel, but I think it's been a minute since I've seen a Marvel movie. So I didn't really notice, but that was apparently like big news with the blogs. So I was like, all right, so I'm gonna keep that in here. Okay. And then Captain America, Sam Wilson, is retrieving a package and saving hostages with his homeboy, Joaquin Torres. Okay. Then, they're successful. Yay, yay, yay. They go train with Isaiah Bradley in Baltimore. Baltimore. Love it. Love it down. Love it down. Such a black city. Love it down. Baltimore. I was like, what? Very excited. Okay. And then on top of that, I love Isaiah Bradley down. I love him so much. That's why he's the cover. He is the moment. Okay. They get invited to the White House. This moment really spoke to me. I know it's like it'll be short on everybody else's list, but Isaiah wears the suit that he married his wife in. And then see what they do to this man. He wore the suit that he married his wife in, and they disrespect him. Now, before they disrespect him, right? Ross, who's the president, I'm gonna keep referring to him as Ross, like I refer to Trump as Trump. So Ross shades Wakanda and vibranium, low key shade. But I still heard that shade when he emphasized how adamantium, which was found on the celestial island that landed in the Indian Ocean. Why India not leading the conversation? Why any country that touches and soaks up in the Indian Ocean? Why they not leading this conversation? Why is it the colonizer of the times, America? That didn't sit well with me. It didn't sit right with me. But nevertheless, Ross is leading this conversation about, it's going to be fairly distributed, unlike certain other resources by other certain nations. Okay, we heard the shade. You mean Wakanda? We heard it. We heard you, girl. We heard you. Okay. And then so like Isaiah's phone stops working. I'm gonna pause here and we're gonna come back after a little break. And we back. I had to go pick up my little boo thing. So excuse me. But anyway, coming back right into it. So we talked about Isaiah's phone not working. And with that comes a decently big spoiler. So if you did not already pause, really gotta go because they stand up and start shooting at Ross. Okay. So Isaiah stands up to shoot at Ross as well as other people. And this is significant because Ross was already the culprit of like testing, torture, use of body as a weapon for Isaiah. And so he already had a very huge distrust for Ross as a person, but also like the US government. And tell me this not the plight of most Black people. Even I just had a discussion earlier about vaccines and vaccines in the Black community. I feel like it's very different than when we talk about it with white people. And again, I'm getting off on a tangent. I'm gonna try to circle back in, but then when we talk about white people, because of just the ways that we have been perpetually used and abused by the medical field, like there's a deep-seated distrust there. We've also been used and abused by the government. When slavery ended, what they do? Incarceration, forced labor, slavery still happening. Also, on the topic of using Black folks, Black bodies, Black intellect as well as weapons of destruction, I even think about the ways that, not so much now with this anti DEI in the government, but prior to this, like most of the funding and grant work that they can get at HBCUs within STEM departments and stuff is for things like Department of Defense. Like Department of Defense are going to be the main folks coming in and giving them money. And so you're using Black institutions to then create weapons of destruction for like minoritized people globally. And it just is it's a tough space because again, if that's the funding I can get and I need funding to support the students that I'm working with, to support my own job, like to support us getting, training these methods and getting research out and published, like it's such a rat race of academia that again, I understand it, but it just sucks that so much of our genius and time and effort and energy has to go into people who just constantly suck from us and take from us, i.e. the American government. Like it's very sad. So the fact that this other being, which I won't get ahead of myself, but this other somebody messed with Isaiah's phone and had him be the main one stand up and pow pow at Ross, like Come on. Because at this point, everybody's already just assuming, oh, it was too much for him. And the history was just too bad. And so that's why Isaiah snapped and wanted to kill the president. Like, they're going to try to justify it. And Isaiah has no memory of this afterwards, but they still arrest him. Innocent black man. And you know what? They roughed him up. I said I was going to come back to it. They roughed him up in the suit that he married his wife in. I almost cried when that happened. Literally, I turned to my girl. I said, that's the suit he married his wife in. And y'all disrespected my man in that suit. Y'all rough it up suit. He said, be careful with this suit. Drops mic. That's why Isaiah's on the cover. Much love, Isaiah. Okay? Free Isaiah at this moment in the plot. Okay? So then, Sam's trying to reason. He's trying to be like, listen, I want to investigate this. Ross is like, nah. And I feel that this really kind of further emphasizes the fact that Sam / New Captain America is decently respected for his abilities as like a tool for Ross to get what he wants, i.e. that package, i.e. the hostages. Because it just happened. You started the movie using me, okay, Mr. President. You started the movie using me. But now that I'm, again, I'm coming at you. I'm here to serve. I want to get to the bottom of this. I want to figure out who really was trying to get at you, because I know it's not my homeboy Isaiah. You don't respect my intellect. You don't respect my ability to discern that shady stuff is going on. You don't trust that. Okay. And then what Ross do? This part killed me. Ross hands over this whole case about Isaiah and the shooting to a former Israeli agent. That's Ruth Batsaraf. No shade to the name. If I said it incorrectly, no shade to the name. But a former Israeli agent. I turned to my girl. I said, it's real? It's real? And she's also played by an Israeli actress. When I say my jaw to floor, mouth flew open. I said, the girl was too stunned to speak for a moment. And then I was like, the fuck is this? The fuck is this? And I'm supposed to trust it? The fuck is this? What? What in the colonizer? Huh? What in the genocide? Excuse me? But then coming to find out as I was researching the plot and stuff and getting into these characters, tell me why the pro-Israel American Jewish Committee and media outlets in Israel, like the Israeli paper Haaretz and the Jerusalem Post, tell me why they was mad too. When Marvel first revealed they was going to bring the character in, they accused Marvel of stripping the character of her Israeli identity for the movie. I said, if that's not so, they didn't even want you to do it, but y'all still did it. What is with that? What is with that? Like, what's going on? I was like, what's going on? Like, why do I look like alfalfa? Sorry. If you're watching on the YouTube, I'm fixing my hair a little bit. Okay. It was just because it was one up. Very much so alfalfa. Brought it down. Thank you. But anyway, yeah, that part tripped me all the way out. I was like, and I already don't trust white women like that. So I just was very, she's going to handle this case about this black man who's being falsely accused? What? Anyway, all right. So the plot moves on. Like I said, Ross wasn't having it. And Sam does try to visit Isaiah to be like, yo, I'm getting you out of here. Isaiah's like, if you want to help me, don't ever come back. Don't look back. I'm done. I'm not getting out of here. I just hated how defeated he felt, like he looked and clearly felt. It really hurt my heart. Again, Isaiah, this one's for you, baby. Okay. And so then Captain America goes off and he's fighting Sidewinder. And the whole time I'm just like, Winder. Now I'm second guessing how to say it, but all I could think in this moment was, why are we fighting each other? Why is it black on black? No, let's fight the man. Let's fight Ross. And that's one part where we get into the real mastermind behind it. And he said, like, we have a common enemy in Ross. I'm kind of like, did he lie though? Like, the way he's going about it, anti-black. But did he lie though? Like, is Ross a guy worth saving? Is his image worth all it is? Not for me. I don't give a. Anyway, so yeah, so he's fighting with Simon Winter, da da da. They have a mind control attack at the prison where they're holding Isaiah. Everybody dies. I'm sorry, my dog is like seeking attention. Okay. Everybody dies but Isaiah. And so this was actually to bait Sam to go there. He doesn't take the bait. Ruth shows up. So that's the Israeli Asian lady. Ruth shows up. She's trying to take Isaiah to solitary. He like, the fuck, I go back to solitary. Like as he should. Solitary is like, I don't, but we can talk about it. But I have a whole bag of stuff for the incarceration system. But anyway, trying to take him to solitary for his own safety. They always be saying that, for his own safety. Not all the time. Like that's obviously not the only reason people go to solitary, but in this case, that was the rationale, right? And as she's trying to do that, she learns that Camp Echo 1 was compromised. Boomski. So then we go to Camp Echo 1. Now, Sam is already there with homeboy Joaquin, okay? But we then learn about this Stearns dude, okay? So Stearns was locked up by Ross and then pumped full of gamma radiation, which gave Stearns super intelligence. And then from there, Ross, like the user, abuser, colonizer he is, he then used Stearns' super genius as his own like personal AI miracle doctor advisor. Just it's just every man, it's all in him. That's how he used Stearns, as every man. Okay, he used him for everything. Um, so then they started getting a little confrontation. Stearns is like, Ross our real enemy. Um, Sam not really having that. He's still trying to kind of like take Stearns down, da da da, because he's causing these problems with Japan and things of the nature. And also Isaiah. We never forget Isaiah. Okay. Ruth, that's the Israeli. Every time I say her name, I'm gonna say Israeli agent. So Ruth shows up to help Sam. They, get away from Stearns, but Stearns also, gets away. They then exchange info with Homeboy, who was helping Stearns at first, Sidewinder. Then he gets a reduced sentence. Then we get to this adamantium treaty situation where they are currently now in a battle between America and Japan because Stearns told Japan that, well, yeah, but they don't know it was Stearns. But Stearns made it to where they got a document or a call, I forget which one exactly, but Japan got some information that America actually stole the adamantium and then set up this whole scheme. You know how I'm gonna say set it up? That Todd set up. Okay. So set up this whole scheme to then get it back for Japan. Right. And so Japan was not feeling that. They said, we don't trust you, we don't trust you, we don't trust you. And they was then ready to pew 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 with America high key because while they're getting this information, the American fighter jets were taken over by Stearns and they start pew pewing at Japan. And so then Japan is, back and forth, so da da da. Sam, aka Captain America, jumps in. He's fighting up, da da da, and Stearns is doing all this background stuff because he wants Ross to Hulk out. He's trying to upset him enough to where Ross will Hulk out. Okay, and he's getting there. He's getting there. Okay, eventually he does. He completely destroys the White House, and I saw an article recently from Slate. I said, "Oh, you onto one right there where." Only thing they should have done to take it a step further is if they had made Ross Hulk out to be orange. If when Ross hulked out, he was orange, yeah, 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 47, 45, 47. That's what it would have been. Because Ross like starts destroying the White House and like he's just trampling through the the cherry blossoms and like just all da da da. And the article likens a president destroying the government, destroying the White House, like destroying things that are typically done by an outside, a villainous force against the nation, but it's like internal destruction. And is that not what we're seeing in 2025? Come on, somebody. Okay, going through my notes, make sure I'm hitting all the plot points. So this one, Ross, after all this is said and done, After all is said and done, Sam is beaten up because remember, Sam is not superhuman. Sam ain't got that gamma radiation. Sam can be hurt. New Captain America can be hurt. And that is why I'm like, oh my God, like, bro, when I'm thinking about just like the medical system and how our pain is not believed, like so much of our ailments that are so completely and utterly treatable go undiagnosed because they refuse to see us. They refuse to see us. And so once again thinking about that in terms of just this job that Sam is taking on from the old Cap is wow. And I know Bucky meant well when he was like, "You don't need the serum." Da da da. It's like cool that you didn't do it, but it was still just like, like the danger he's put himself in. I don't like the nuance of that. Like because there's so much gendered racial nuance when we are in these types of positions versus whites. Like it's just so much extra nuance. Okay, but anyway, my point with this part in the plot is that Ross admits to his wrongdoing and takes responsibility. And this article quoted, this is the Bloom article again from 2025, was like, this is a choice that Sam praises him for making. Roll my eyes. Huh? White male mediocrity at its finest. Like they do the bare minimum and it's, yay, oh my goodness. Oh, he did something that was so normal and very clearly the right thing to do. You're so incredibly average. It's exceptional. Like, and Isaiah's free. Okay. Thank God. Now he should never have to go through it. Also, I didn't like a little bit where Ruth brought him his suit. Like, okay, girl. Okay, girl. But again, we stand the suit. We stand the suit. We stand what the suit stands for. And we stand Isaiah Bradley because wrongfully accused, used and abused by the system. Now a free man. But also, like, I just, again, should never happened. Should never been in that position. And also deserved way more than a little half-ass apology from Ross, where he's admitting to doing his wrong. Da da da. I mean, clearly. So that's the full version. Like that's the full plot. Now, when you hit to the streets of the Googleisha, I come to find out because I was just trying to type out and say, is the new Captain America superhuman? That's what I was going to type. But when I said, is the new Captain America, you know what the top term was? Woke. That's why I named this Woke or Wake Up. Woke or Wake Up. Insert Dr. Umar Johnson's sounds. I don't know why I got tripped on his name for a second. But y'all know the blast sounds. Y'all know the blast sounds. So insert them in your head. When I figure out how to do that, I'll be a dangerous woman. But most search thing was Captain America Woke. Captain Woke. Another article, Schwartz 2025 article said Captain Woke. I said woke. Oh, woke. I mean, the president taking down America. That's kind of on brand. I mean, is that woke? Is like now just recounting, like is now documenting the reality for America. Is that now woke? Reality is woke. Reality is woke now. And that was though very much so supported by the times we're in with this second Trump presidency, the anti-DEI, anti-wokeness. And it didn't help when Anthony Mackie, the actor, again, he was interviewing, he was talking, and he said, for me, Captain America represents a lot of different things, and I don't think the term America should be one of those representations. It's about a man who keeps his word, who has honor, dignity, and integrity, someone who is trustworthy and dependable. And there was a lot of thoughts on that. He replied, or like he finally replied to all the like hate and messages he was getting about it to his Instagram. And he said, let me be clear about this. I am a proud American, and taking on the shield of a hero like Cap is the honor of a lifetime. I have the utmost respect for those who serve and have served our country. Cap has universal characteristics that people all over the world can relate to. So, pretty PC response. Pretty PC response. Pretty PC response. I got a pretty PC response. Okay, so he was trying to basically say he's not excluding America, but he's just saying it's bigger than America. So it's not just America. So it's Captain Dignity. It's Captain. What else he say? Integrity. It's Captain Honor. It's Captain Trustworthy. It's Captain Dependable. Not necessarily has to be Captain America. And you know the whites, that's not right for them. That's not right for them because America already mean white for them. White the color or lack thereof. Like that's what that already mean for them. So for him to say it don't mean America for him, that was woo child. That's not what they wanted to hear. That's not what they wanted to hear at all. Okay. And so how does this play into like the grand scheme of film though? Because box office wise, how's it been doing? I know when I was looking at watching it, every different time that I happened to look at theater showings for it, empty. The cinema score and the critic reviews are all bad. If you compare it to other Marvel flops, this comparison was done by an article, a 2025 article from Tassie. They compared it to Captain America Brave. So Captain America Brave New World is the movie. Its opening weekend, it did $88 million, which you throw me that, I'm sit chilling. You throw me 88 million. But so opening week, it's not good for movies apparently. So opening weekend, this movie did 88 million. The Marvels did 46 million its opening weekend, so not good either. Eternals did 71 million, so again less, not good. Ant-Man and Wasp did 106 million, which I was like, dang, they did better. I know I didn't watch that. Okay. And then Thor: The Dark World did 85 million, which I was a little surprised because they be loving Thor down. Even just like for the body. I don't like plot wise, but people be loving Thor's body. And then Iron Man 2, which I'm like, flop. Iron Man 2 did 128 million. Flop. But it's a flop for Marvel. And that's important. Like basically this movie is not making MUC money or MCU money. I love dyslexic. MCU money. Yes, and that was backed up by an article, 25 article as well, of course, from Kalura. So yeah, they're not making MCU money, right? And then they also did, so the Tassie folks, they also did a comparison between this movie and the other Captain Americas. Okay, so the first one did 80 did sorry, the first one did 65 million its opening weekend and totaled to 370 million. The second one did 95 million and totaled on the opening weekend and totaled to 714 million by the end. Captain America Civil War, the last one, did 175 million opening and did $1.1 billion. Totally not. Okay. And so technically, if the trends follow for this movie, it could end up like earning 600 million plus. Like if it was following the trends of the typical like Marvel success movies, it would get to 600 million, but it would have to bypass all the negative shit. Sorry, the negative stuff that it has going for it right now, and would assume that word of mouth would carry it past publicity and things like that. If not, this could be very dangerous for the concept of a new Captain America going forward. And so he could, lose this role before it even really starts. They could start giving him like little side things where he's barely showing up in the Marvel universe and kind of trickle him out or something. Which hopefully that's not the case, but it's a real possibility just with the budgeting and how Hollywood moves according to the money. They follow the money. So I dig a little bit into that to understand, what's the whole vibe of it. And first and foremost, I found out that it's very hard to track down the accurate budgets for a movie because what they will do is for damage control and to protect the image, they will adjust and finesse their budgets as far as how they report them. Okay. So according to this 2025 article from Kalura, at 4 weeks of the movie being in theaters, the movie was doing 371 million worldwide. So this is the new movie. Now, budget wise, from Variety and Hollywood Reporter, they're saying 180 million. But considering that according to multiple sources, they had 22 days of reshoots, everybody's saying that that don't make sense. So the hot mic, they're estimating 300 million range for the movie. These people who wrote the MCU book, the Reign of Marvel Studios, they wrote this book about Marvel. They're estimating 380 million. They saying that 180, that's lies. That's lies. And so then on top of that though, apparently, so that's just like base budget. They separate that out from P&A, which is prints and advertising. And Variety says that that's probably estimated for this movie at 100 million. So really we're talking about probably 480 million if we're putting the highest estimate for the budget plus the P&A estimate. That nearing 500 million. But on the conservative side, if we go conservative, Kalura was like, well, if you go conservative and say it was $300 million movie film, they would need to make 600 million. So I think that's also where that number came from earlier, where they're like hoping that it follows the trends. They would have to make $600 million for the studio to break even, and that's not predicted for this movie. And so I'm just like, with the times we're in of 2025, this has been a year, okay? Between Trump and his minions and all this anti woke stuff, and again, this film being called woke and like all this extra discourse that's around it, the deeply like entrance into the fabric and foundation of America, gendered racial stereotypes and biases about Black people also have a huge impact on this movie. But then also the Trump tariffs, okay? That's affecting exports and whatnot, but also it's going to affect film and TV production apparently because this article from Chianese, it's a 2024 article, they said that at this point with the tariffs, Canada's going to be more cost attractive for Hollywood than American sites. So it's going to cut into the US based productions, all those tax incentives, the grants and the subsidies that people be, doing between the United States of America and these film companies. That's going to be potentially, not fully nixed, but it's going to decrease because, they're going to have an easier time, a cheaper time doing that stuff in Canada. Canada just right across the border. That's not that far. You got to get on a plane for some of these people. So it's very close. Plus, all these Trump orders are also gutting agencies that fight censorship worldwide. And censorship is not new. But I mean, when we think about the government's hand in film, but also just media as a whole, this I really want to get into is a little bit less like prevalent for this movie in particular because plenty of folks say that this movie swings more so toward the woke pendulum because we have a president who's causing the not I won't say demise but hurting America, hurting the American government versus an outside force hurting it. Like this idea of internal destruction is definitely not super right winged, so I must say. But with this censorship stuff, like first off, it's not new. So we can go back as far as like the 18th century with European press, the fact that like, but even just not even the press, but the fact that there was only one like holy text, and the priest had it, and you just had to believe the priest because ain't nobody else have a copy, nobody could read, right? So we've got past those times. And as far as U.S. is concerned, we cannot forget about the Espionage Act of 1917 during World War I, where there was prohibited publication of information concerning national defense. They was keeping it on the hush hush. They then amended it to include any disloyal, profane, abusive, language concerning the government because we are so sensitive over here. And then all the countries during World War II were choking the press. They were going as far to censor the letters that soldiers were sending home, removing things like XOs, like hugs and kisses, in case that was a code. Like, I can't even say hugs and kisses to my babe. Like, that's crazy. And censorship did not start there. Once journalism hit the internet, right? Because, first we got journalism more so on TV, newspapers, things like that. But then journalism hits the web, right? Then we have digital censorship. So filtering, blocking, hacking, redirecting. How many people talk about how their stuff is shadow banned on the TikTok and all these other different sites. And what was crazy is, like obviously I've heard about shadow banning and stuff on TikTok and whatnot. But I know that I'm currently really noticing how there are a lot of media, like news outlet cuts and layoffs But when I started researching it, like year after year for the past few years, there have been articles out about layoffs as a massive thing. Okay, like percentages of the workforce year after year have been getting cut. I'd have to look into that further. I don't know if it's just from the fact that so much work is being able to happen more remotely online in these digital spaces, plus AI, so you just don't need as many people. I know these current cuts are kind of being a little bit more tied to the anti-DEI stuff, with NBC laying off about 2 to 3% of their staff. Some of the folks that work at NBC were saying that they believe this is, they reported this to a article, 2025 article, from someone named Moses, and staff were telling them that they feel that these layoffs are focused on folks who cover culture and diverse populations, although technically speaking, the diversity news team wasn't eliminated. I think they said it has like 8 bodies for the entire, like for the diversity of the world. 8 bodies, like that's a team. How much is the bit? Like, what is the what is a typical average team size? Just have follow up questions. CNN laid off about 6% of their folks. Washington Post, HuffPost, Vox Magazine, they all doing layoffs as well. And of course, we cannot forget about homegirl Joy Reid, and she left MSNBC, or is leaving MSNBC, despite the fact that she just signed a new contract. And this article that I read this year from Battaglio confirmed that she just got a new contract, but is leaving. And the MSNBC has offered no explanation. Although apparently it is well known that the Comcast executives were very uncomfortable with some of her harsh commentary about the Trump administration and the supporters of Trump. Okay. Now, also, furthermore, she defended her criticism of Israel, saying, "We as an American people have the right to object to little babies being bombed. Where I come down on that is, I am not sorry." Come on, Joy, tell them about it. Okay. But also beyond Joy Reid, MSNBC is splitting from NBC News. Lester Holt is leaving NBC Nightly News as well. He'll still be the anchor for Dateline, but he's leaving NBC Nightly News. So it overall, censoring is to maintain order and keep the public ignorant of anything that could threaten the government, right? That's it. You want to learn more about that? There's a great article from 2015 from Abari and Al Sharkey. They get into a lot of the history of censoring and why it happens. When does this increase? During rebellions, conflict, especially by censoring the press, suppressing reporters, closing or taking over news outlets. Does any of this sound familiar? Yeah, Captain, wake up. Captain, wake up. Shit is getting very real.